A very warm welcome to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Pearl Nameka and with me is
Chiamaka Ohaochi.
Last episode, we shared with you proceedings from some of the end-of-year events in Taxation Kingdom. And of course, before that, we brought you the story of the 2019 FIRS Stakeholders Retreat, which, as to be expected, was an occasion to review 2018 and chart the way forward for 2019.
On the sidelines of that Stakeholders Retreat, we spoke to Mr. Abiodun Aino, Coordinating Director, Domestic Taxes Group at the FIRS, who doubles as the Special Advisor to the Executive Chairman.
We also spoke to the big masquerade himself, Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service. What did we want from the two gentlemen? A review of 2018 and some peep into what they have in stock for 2019.
Let's look at 2018. You announced that the FIRS was able to generate 5.32 trillion. So how did you make it happen?
Well, I think it was the cooperation of all stakeholders here present, members in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, the Minister of Finance, and of course I'd like to also mention the Presidency. They gave us their full backing and support. So in carrying out our responsibilities, we were not hindered. And I think the staff of FIRS also played a major role.
On June 29, 2017, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, who was then acting as President, signed Executive Order Number 004 on the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, VADES.
VADES was initially meant to last for 9 months, but was later extended to 12 months, which brought the closing date to June 2018.
Let's look at VADES. What's the update and what has it yielded?
Well, VADES is over now. In terms of the amount declared under VADES, I believe it was in the region of 94 billion, out of which 50 billion has been paid. The balance is going to be paid instrumentally. However, for those who did not come forward, we do have data on a lot of them, and we're beginning to send them assessments, and we expect them to pay as soon as possible.
In the course of the year 2018, so much furore was generated by the decision of the FIRS to place lien on the bank accounts of alleged tax defaulters, thereby making the banks agents of tax collection.
Now on substitution, how have the stakeholders reacted to it and what has it yielded?
Well, I think a lot of the stakeholders were surprised that we had that information. In terms of what it has yielded to date, I believe we have collected about 25 billion with another 30 or 40 billion to be paid instrumentally. We do have over 75,000 businesses or bank accounts that did turn over between 100 to 1 billion that were about to substitute. In terms of the 1 billion and above, we're discussing with them. A number of them have filed. And I believe before the end of the first quarter, we should have concluded the exercise. And what we should have is those who have paid, those who have agreed to pay instrumentally, and I think from now on they'll understand that they're now in the tax net and they have to pay the taxes as when due going forward.
Tremendous efforts have been made in recent time to have a credible database of taxpayers across the country and to make it possible and easy for the different state tax authorities to exchange information.
So what's the update on the National Taxpayer Database?
On the National Tax Database, it is now ready. Very soon we're going to launch it. And what it basically means is that any tax administrator in one part of the country can access that database and know your tax status if he or she, or if a corporate organization wants to do business within their state. In terms of the numbers, we have grown it from 10 million to 20 million, but we do have BVN information, which says there are about 33 million BVN accounts. We're going to analyze them, go through them. Those that may have passed, we'll take them off the tax database. Those who are still on it and are still not taxpayers, we will certainly deal with them appropriately.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams, FEET, on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate TCC. Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Welcome once again. At the FIRS Stakeholders Retreat, two major groups of the service presented reports. Mr. Peter Enna is the Coordinating Director, Support Services Group of the FIRS.
In this group, we have 5 departments. We have the Finance and Accounts Department, the Facilities, Security, Safety Management Department, Career, Skills Development Department, the Procurement Department, and the Human Capital Management Department. I'll go straight to the Human Capital Management Department. This is the department that has a role in providing adequate and competent workforce for the service through the right placement and motivation to achieve the service objective.
Mr. Enna spoke about progress of work at the site of the new FIRS corporate headquarters in Abuja.
The next slide talks about where most of our capital budget has been going to. You will see the slide of our new corporate headquarters. This was a project that was awarded in 2014. We have gone 85%. The department has also remodeled, reconstructed offices across the nation in the 6 geopolitical zones.
Mr. Aino began by looking back at year 2018.
We are essentially the operational arm of the service. If you like, we can say that we are the heartbeat of the service. My chairman, as the Chief Executive and the Chief Accounting Officer of the service, has presented largely the report card of the Operations Department. I'll speak to some issues like tax audit. We see the figure that we've collected from tax audit in 2018, 212, and we are focused on some areas that were not being done regularly before. Let me speak to the issue of companies that have exceeded pioneer status. The law provided that while they were under pioneer incentives, they were not exempted from filing returns, actually. They were supposed to file returns. And FRS also has the duty of certifying their qualified capital expenditure, as well as their profit or loss within the period that they were enjoying pioneer status. This has not been done for a while. But the administration of Babatunde Fowler took that up. So far, we have 131 companies slated for audit. About 81 of them are already been done. We have raised assessments that is in excess of about assessments of over 8 billion. The same thing also with transfer pricing. Luckily, like the speaker said, within FRS is one of us who sits as the vice chair in OECD of what is called Inclusive Framework. The Inclusive Framework consists of countries well over 100 nations. And they are the ones that operate what is called the BEPS action. And we have our own head of transfer pricing function serving as the vice chair of that Inclusive Framework. So we take benefit of that, and they've been able to do quite a number of things. On their own, in 2018, they carried out 36 transfer pricing audits. Now, transfer pricing audit is not a regular day audit. It's a highly specialized audit, and it is said that all over the world, the average time it takes you to complete transfer audit or process is about 3 years. So it's not a quick win at all. But they did 36 in 2018. They raised assessments of 72 billion, both in local and foreign currency, and collection was about 11.5 billion. We also have the FRS and EFCC joint task force. This came about because we realized that this is an environment where tax evasion has become a norm. The kind of statistic that the chairman rolled out should be quite, I'm looking for the adjective to use that, to qualify that, how staggering that number is. That people are making those kind of turnover, and we're having close to 75,000 of such that are not even paying taxes at all. And so the joint task force was put in place so that where we need to apply a little bit of force, we do so. And that also has been yielding some results.
On transfer pricing,
we also have the transfer pricing regulation of 2018. We had one in 2012, and we had another one in 2018. Nigeria still remains one of the very few countries in Africa that has a TP regulation, which is one of the instruments we need to use to fight illicit financial flow that is plaguing and ravaging the continent, making us to lose a minimum of about 50 billion annually. And a few things came up as a result of that new regulations. One of it was that we now have a documentation threshold. We say that if the connected transactions is less than 300 million, you will not have to file a TP regulation documentation, except the service thinks otherwise. One of the shortcomings of the earlier one was that there was also little or no administrative penalties. The 2018 amendments, if you call it that, has introduced such administrative penalties. Failure to file transfer pricing documentation alone is 10 million fine, and 10,000 for every subsequent day you fail to do so. We also went further to address issues on commodities trading, quoted price and deal price. I may be sounding a bit technical now. But for those who understand this, we have brought more clarity into it. And the whole aim of transfer pricing regulation basically is to ensure that all transactions between what is called connected entities reflect what is called the arm's length rule. And where they fail to, the service has a right to bring them to the arm's length rule and then charge tax appropriately. Beyond that also, we wanted to be sure that investors who come to Nigeria, they have the certainty of how we treat transfer pricing in Nigeria.
Mr. Aino proceeded to speak about the fruits of the above-stated efforts.
The chairman has presented on our total collection for 2018, which as at the close of our books stood at 5.32 trillion. And then the next slide shows the breakdown of that into oil and non-oil. Oil accounted for 46.43 and non-oil was at 53.57. Then the next slide shows all the tax types, and we saw the growth in VAT as well. For the first time, we crossed the threshold of 1 trillion in VAT collection, and then we believe that we can do much better. Slide 14 shows our collection 2015 to date and the projection for 2019. And if you see that graph, you see a huge gap between 2018 and 2019. Then at the end of it, it shows our total collected revenue from January 2015 to December 2018, which stands at 16.39 trillion. Similarly, when you look at the VAT collection, you can see also the growth in our VAT collection over the years. Slide 17 is quite interesting. At the top there it's showing the oil price and in each of those years. And what you observed before is that the collection is in tandem with the price of the oil. But when you look at 2015 to date, you will see that while the price of crude oil is coming down, we are still able to sustain the growth in revenue. That, for me, is a major achievement of Muhammadu Buhari administration. It's a kind of a paradigm shift, focusing on what we can do with or without oil.
Commendable scorecard, if you ask me.
Commendable indeed. We look forward to even better performance in 2019. Mr. Aino gave a peep into the game plan of the FIRS in 2019.
By the appropriation bill presented to the honorable members of the National Assembly, the target that is given unto us, which this is waiting your approval by the way, is 8.8 trillion. And you can see that. And they are broken down. And by the way, in order to clear the confusion in the mind of some people will say, how can FRS has a target of 8.8 trillion, while the nation itself has 8.3 trillion, 8.83 trillion? The answer is this. The budget presented by Mr. President is for the federal government. We collect revenue, like the chairman has said, for the nation. So, out of this figure, everything that we are expected to collect do not go to the federal government alone. It is shared by the federal government, the state governments, and the local government. And so, they do not get the entire 8.8. Were they able to get the entire 8.8, then we are not going to be talking of the kind of budget that we are having now. And when you look at the VAT component of this target, states and local governments get 85% of that. Federal government only gets 15% of that. At the national sharing, yes, federal government gets 52.68. So this is the target. Now, rounding up, I will go to the strategies we have in place to continue to deliver on our mandate. We're going to look at a few amendments to our tax law, perhaps like some of the ones that has been suggested to us. Some of them we've been working on within in-house and present to the National Assembly for approval. That's going to happen. Tax audit will continue like it was before. We've not new lessons. We've changed over time our reporting format. We've given our tax consultants that work with us timeline to deliver, and so we're going to change it. We've also automated a bit of the audit process. Now that in my office, in this office of the chairman, we can monitor what goes on while our colleagues are on the field. That will begin to happen in 2019. Expansion of VAT auto-collect. We made a little breakthrough toward the end of the year. In a particular sector, we've been making a lot of push and there have been resistance. We got them to hook up onto our auto VAT collect. And guess what? Their monthly collection is going to be in the region of about 700 million every month. When you compare that with what they were doing before, it was a far cry. So we continue to push toward this end in order to ensure that we increase revenue generation. Expansion of the property value exercise will also continue. Further implementation of the automatic exchange of information will continue. Expansion of the bank account turnover exercise will continue. And continuous taxpayer engagement will not stop. Our aim at the end of the day is to achieve voluntary compliance. That's where we want to go, so that we don't have to go out there to chase taxpayer. The money we spend on audits and the time we spend on audits will eventually reduce our cost of collection when we're able to achieve voluntary compliance.
For further elucidation, Tax Matters spoke to Mr. Aino on matters arising from his presentation and other matters.
Now on automation, what's the updates on automation?
We laid the foundation for automation some years back, and I can say that we are improving. We are not where we want to be, but definitely we are not where we used to be. We got quite a number of companies now signing up to e-filing. That's quite good. And then when it comes to auto VAT collect, we've had a lot of pushback from people who naturally find it convenient to find an excuse not to pay taxes. But we have been unrelenting. And recently we are succeeding, and you can see that in the VAT figure that we collected for 2018. For the first time, we crossed the threshold of $1 trillion, and this is because of the benefit of the auto VAT collect. So in 2019, we believe we're going to do much more than that. So if you ask me, we're on the right course.
So what's the update on links with international organizations?
Well, links with international organizations, we are a member of the critical ones. We are a member of the Inclusive Framework. Inclusive Framework, it's a body of well over 100, and that is the nations that come together on an equal footing basis. It used to be an exclusive club of the G20 or the OECD, but now they have expanded that, and Nigeria is a member. And so we play a very active role in that. That's why we're able to sign to what is called MLI. That's why we're able to, that is where we do treaties agreement. We sign up onto that. It is also our participation in that enable us to sign up for the automatic exchange of information. You need to belong to this international body for you to be able to benefit those kind of things. So, and I did mention earlier also in my presentation today that one of us in FRS actually sits as deputy chair of Inclusive Framework. So in terms of international cooperation and collaboration, we are on the right course. We're working with most international agencies. They are helping us also in reviewing and transforming the tax system in Nigeria. I also mentioned that we submitted ourselves to TADAT, and we have HMRC working with us, IMF working with us. So in terms of international agencies, we are very much working with them in a cooperative manner.
What about the house in Abuja, the revenue house? How far?
It's on course. In the course of presentation today, we showed the picture, how far we've gone. From the budget projection, they said we've done about 85% of it. I don't know precisely when we'll be able to finish and occupy it. Target is that we should be able to do that in 2019. But if that fails, I believe that unfailingly 2020, the FRS team should be able to move into the revenue house, the new headquarters.
Wow, what a breathtaking journey. So much is happening at the FIRS. Of course, like Mr. Aino said, his group is the heartbeat of the FIRS. As far as we are concerned, the FIRS is the heartbeat of Nigeria. No tax, no nation.
Yes, so no tax, no nation.
Every day, my people dey for work. Some dey do office work. Some get them own business, so all of them want good road, constant power for better life. Oh, whether na office work, oh yeah, pay your tax. Whether na your own business, oh, pay your tax. If you want a better life, oh, pay your tax. Now your civic responsibility, pay your tax. Better soup, now money cook am. Oh yes. Nothing goes for nothing, my brother. If you want potable water, security and hospital for make life jolly.
That's right. Good roads, good hospitals, potable water, adequate security all come from taxpayers' money. Play your part in making Nigeria great. Everybody, small scale, big companies, entrepreneurs, do the right thing. Pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS.
Let's rock together again next week on the same platform, same day of the week, same time of the day. We do hope that you have your permanent voters card ready. Bye for now.
See you next week.